you can't choose whether you get it or not. You can't walk down the road and turn the street lights off for you because you didn't spend the money, and me, I get the light. You can't do that. Mind blown. You could do a COVID theme game. There is pandemic based, media already, isn't there? The film about pandemics, and there is a game about diseases, because they're a concept that we've lived with. Just briefly, I'll reiterate that we should be putting an infectious diseases centre in every major populace, in the same way as you have a hospital that deals with your accident and emergencies. Oh, I've broken my chuffing arm. I know where I'm going to go with that. I've got a respiratory infection. I know where I'm going to go with that. Shouldn't be the same place. Should not be the same place. Because as we've seen, the respiratory infection bit infects everyone else, and then they can't do their jobs. They can't deal with all the people. Have it in a different building. Have it in a different building. Put your respiratory contagious diseases, flu, even the common cold research. Now we know about this. But we've had other ones, haven't we? SARS, MERS, avian flu, bird flu, mad cow disease. Put all them. I don't know if mad cow disease was respiratory. But have a separate centre, like the COVID centre, they'd call it now. I wouldn't know, the COVID clinic. But have it set up to deal with these things. Build them now. And when they're not busy, when there's not a huge amount of flu, they could be there for the vaccines as well, couldn't they? When they're not busy, they're there for social health. They're there for ongoing long COVID or other respiratory, issues. Surely it's a good idea to have a dedicated centre for the study of and combating of respiratory diseases, that when it's quiet is there, still there, so it's ready to go into action. A bit like a fire service for something like COVID, because it's going to happen again. Not COVID, but another disease. We've had loads of them. Diseases happen. That's fine. I've been vaccinated against COVID and measles, mumps, rubella and whooping cough. So that's cool. We deal with them. That's what humanity does. We've got a long history of doing it. But I just think we need to... it requires money nobody wants to spend. Do they really not? We have a fire service because... And this is... I'm having a rant. I'm going to get onto the game bit. The nice positive bit at the end after my little rants. You love it. You love my rants. But I just want to quickly say that we have a fire service in capitalist society. Even like we used to have a capitalist service, right? Which was, if you paid the firemen, they would stop your house from burning down. But if you didn't pay the firemen, they wouldn't come round. And the way you knew that the firemen knew that is they used to put a big plaque of metal. This is back in the old days in the UK. They used to have a big plaque of metal, and it was metal so that it wouldn't burn down with the fire. And they put that outside the house. Big markings, fire insured against fire. And when the fires would go, the firemen would come out, and if they see a big metal on your house, they'd put it out. And if not, they'd be like, chuff you haven't spent your money, you don't get your fire service. That's capitalism. But we thought that those sort of systems didn't really work out. Not for the good of society, not for everyone. It turned out that when London burned down in 1666, when London burned down, it wasn't good that only certain buildings got put out. The whole place went up. It spread. So in the end, we decided, look, you're going to have a community fire service, and it's going to have to be paid for out of the public purse, isn't it? And that's what happens with things like streetlights, with hospitals. Maybe not in America with hospitals, but in the UK certainly, with all sorts of things, with roads, with the military spending and defence. That technically is spent on your behalf for everyone. We all benefit from the military in the same way. You can't choose whether you get it or not. You can't walk down the road and turn the street lights off for you because you didn't spend the money, and me, I get the light. You can't do that. You just have to have things that we share. You just have to, because we're a society. You can't avoid sharing them. You can't toll road every road, and why would you want to? So with that in mind, my idea for a public building that is for the benefit of the public in our health, like a hospital. You know, it does knock on to the political idea that it has to be publicly funded. Maybe the capitalists and the right wingers have got the wrong idea. Maybe their ideas don't run a society properly, and maybe they have to use socialist ideas in their current form of capitalism because otherwise it wouldn't work. So maybe we need to lean more on those. Let's not get into too much politics. But basically, I want them to build a chuffing building to deal with this stuff so that next time it crops up, it gets chuffing dealt with. I don't want to have to doom scroll. I want to know that the chuffers up the road have sorted it. That's what I, hope for from my leaders. Stop group, but instead, right? I'm asked to care for infectious patients with non-infectious patients. Exactly. How can you do that? How can you... People that work in hospitals that have to... I remember during the COVID, my nan went to the hospital, and before she could go on the clean ward, meaning the non-COVID ward, she had to go on a holding ward for people who may or may not have COVID, considered dirty ward, not dirty and they haven't cleaned it, but not, could be infectious. And I just thought, well, that's chuffing stupid, isn't it? Because what if she hasn't got it? She's going to get it. And lo and behold, who knows? Anyway, I wasn't pleased with the way everything was left. It's a shame for the health service that everything was just put upon them like, oh, well, you deal with it. You've been dealing with being underfunded and overworked for years. You should be able to deal with this. That's my little rant about that.